What's up, Beans? Welcome to Ctrl-Alt-Fight, the place to catch up on a whole week's news, and boy do we have a lot to talk about, from new character trailers, a crossplay beta test, the AI revolution reaching Chun-Li, and today's top story: you could have the chance to become a millionaire just by winning a Street Fighter tournament. But first I want to begin by having a look at the EVO announcement for the main titles in 2023. EVO is easily the biggest fighting game tournament, and each year players from a huge variety of communities gather to compete and celebrate their favorite fighting games. This year, EVO returns to Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas with 8 main titles, which will include Street Fighter 6, Guilty Gear Strive, Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, Tekken 7, The King of Fighters 15, Melty Blood, Type Lumina, Dragon Ball FighterZ, and Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Marvel vs. Capcom is actually being held as the first EVO throwback tournament, and with a minimum prize pool of $25,000 for every game mentioned here, there's potentially big money on the table, even if the game you're good at came out in 2011. Now, the announcement of the main titles for EVO probably should have been the main talking point of the week, but it was quickly overshadowed by what's being seen as quite a significant change to the way the finals will be held. During their announcement stream, EVO explained that for optimization purposes, main stage titles will be running top 6 instead. See, EVO generally runs tournaments in double elimination format, which means that even if you lose once, you can still beat all the other losers to get a chance to play against the person who beat all their opponents without losing. EVO traditionally put the top 4 undefeated players and the top 4 players from the losers bracket for a total of 8 players on the main stage, but this easily ends up taking 3 to 4 hours to finish using double elimination format. Some players have accepted the change as it increases the prestige of being one of the few to make it to the main stage, but other players are less convinced. Brian F. took to Twitter to say, "I can't imagine getting 7th at EVO for Street Fighter 6 out of potentially 5,000 plus participants and getting literally nothing, not even stage time." Justin Wong has pledged his support, however, saying, "Whoever gets 7th place at EVO at an official game, please come up to me at the bar and I'll buy you a drink." Now, if you ask me, I'd say Justin Wong buying you a drink makes 7th place look significantly more prestigious than winning a boring old cash prize for winning EVO. And now I think it's time to talk about today's main story. Who wants to be a fighting game millionaire? Last week, Capcom Cup crowned their new champion, Mena RD, who also won in 2017, making them the first and only 2-time winner of Capcom Cup. The prize money of $120,000 is sure to make a huge difference to Mena's life, in addition to most likely reaching the community in the Dominican Republic in some way. But oh, the pain of knowing that if it had been 1 year later, that prize money would have been a whopping $1 million. That's right, Capcom Cup, which already has one of the biggest prize pools for a fighting game tournament, has announced that in addition to giving next year's winner $1 million, the total prize pool itself will actually total $2 million. Not only is this a huge incentive for hungry esports gamers to play Street Fighter 6, which will release in June, but Twitter got straight to commenting that $1 million is likely to motivate OG players and many of the players who stopped playing after Street Fighter V's awkward launch year. It also raises big questions about how it will affect the meta, since the incentive to follow tier lists and choose a top character will now greatly increase. And any conversation about the shortcuts and advantages of playing on an all-button controller are likely to result in an all-out war. But actually, since my main content on this channel is about controllers, I'm more than excited about controller opinions heating up. Now it's time for OMG, a hit tweet. Okay, since this is the first episode, this is actually a tweet from myself. It took 22 years, but Capcom finally realized their $1 million dream. Okay, so it's not a super hit, but it must have hit a few nerves knowing that the game from 2 decades ago was titled Millionaire Fighting, and now that players can actually win $1 million from a fighting game tournament, Capcom vs. SNK is still nowhere to be seen, and to be honest, that's really quite upsetting. Speaking of controller opinions heating up, Quanba released new photos of their new lineup of arcade sticks. We saw some trailers in 2022, but we finally got more detailed looks at their 3 new sticks, which they're calling the Drone 2, the Titan, and the Obsidian 2. If you like devices to be matte black, then you're probably going to love these, but really the Drone 2 and Obsidian 2 look like they're more or less the same shape as the original versions for the PS4. The biggest difference is the accessory and cable storage, which has been integrated into the side paddles. of the Obsidian 2. The Drone 2 now has a touchpad, and I believe the Titan is a brand new model with a mixture of the Vuelix button layout and the wider spacing between the lever and buttons that you might find on sticks using the Noir layout. Whichever controller you choose, you're definitely going to have no shortage of games to play this year, because Cygames has just revealed a new character coming to Granblue Fantasy Versus Rising. The character is called Anilla, but it was only a teaser trailer, so apart from the character visuals, we don't know much about how they'll play yet. The next trailer is scheduled for March 4th, so we should have more detailed information soon. What we did see, however, is two new system mechanics that will feature in GB Versus Rising, known as Dash Attack and Triple Attack. Dash Attack will help you close the gap between your opponent, and Triple Attack is a change to the auto combo system, which allows you to mix up the third hit of the combo into an overhead or a low attack to catch your opponent off guard. This is a hugely welcome addition, since the game was super fun to play on launch, but it needed more depth as time went on. We recently got a few system mechanic changes like Overdrive, but it's good to see even more changes to the mechanics, which will hopefully bring back players who left while waiting for rollback netcode, and also allow for more casual players to introduce some simple mix-ups into their basic combos. Street Fighter 6 also dropped some new character information in the form of 3 character trailers, back to back, completing the starting roster of 18 characters. The trailers included returning grappler Zangief, new character Lily, and the returning favorite with a British accent, Cammy. Although the trailers show some of the gameplay, it's not clear yet how the characters will be controlled. Since Street Fighter 6 will have multiple control schemes to accommodate both casual and seasoned players alike, we shall see whether characters like Zangief continue to require 360-degree motions to input their moves. Reactions to the character trailers have been generally positive, with particular attention being paid to the fact that Zangief actually appears to have body fat now, though the same can't be said of Cammy, whose waist only seems to have got even smaller, while her hips have somehow managed to become wider. Whether or not you have a thing for tiny waists, you can be sure that fan art is going to explode, and indeed already has begun to flood in on Twitter. Most of the Cammy fan art seems heavily focused on a comically long scene from the trailer where Cammy bends over so she can stretch out like a cat, but one of my favorites is probably this really quite unfair illustration depicting Cammy still killing it at 40, while Chun-Li is in the background bent over and suffering from backache at the age of 50. Another one, perhaps in response to the first one, depicts both Cammy and Chun-Li struggling to do their stretches, while Jury is... I'm not sure what Jury is doing in this picture. But it doesn't stop at fan art of Street Fighter's top poster ladies, as it seems that AI is beginning to infect the world of fighting games too. If you're not caught up, the short story is that AI can scrape every image on the internet without permission, analyze the styles of them all, and generate custom new images from pretty much any prompt you can throw at it. It's incredibly powerful, but also terrifying for people who built careers on drawing art by hand. But while the gray zone continues to be unclear, people are happily churning out AI-generated art, with a recent example supposedly claiming to be hand-drawn art, but showing clear signs of being AI-generated. Again, if you're not familiar, you won't know this, but at this early stage, it's still difficult for AI to understand the concept of human fingers. At first glance, these images appear incredibly convincing, but upon closer inspection, you see that details like Chun-Li's bangle spikes have no actual three-dimensional shape, the fingertips on both Cammy and Chun-Li blend into their palms, and Cammy just sort of has 6 fingers on her left hand. Is there an arcade stick for people with 6 fingers on their left hand? Well, if it exists, it's probably in Markman's stick collection, which sounds like it'll be making its way to Japan soon. In a tweet, Markman stated, "I'll also be bringing 40-ish arcade sticks, but I'll explain later." If confirmed, this will be the second display of the Arcade Stick Museum, which debuted at EVO in 2022. I feel bad for Mark having to pack up all those sticks for shipping when probably many of them he actually bought or received in Japan to begin with. And I certainly don't envy him having to answer the questions at airport security when he shows up with 40 arcade sticks. In other news, BB Tag is not only alive, but it's getting a PC Xbox beta test, which is presumably for crossplay, but this tweet is written kind of weirdly, so it's unclear. It will include access online matches, but all game modes including tutorial and more. Flood has wreaked havoc upon the AS Indo office, which you'll know as the company that makes the arcade stick parts like the Golden Lever and the Cardimod, both of which I've made videos about before on this channel. Fortunately, there was no serious damage and they were back up and running a couple days later. And speaking of arcade parks, Punk Workshop has unveiled some new buttons which look like the head crabs from Half-Life. If you're obsessed with finding buttons that are faster, lighter, and easier to press, then you'll surely be wanting to keep an eye on these in the near future when they go on sale. And finally, before we go, it's time for the comment shoutout, which goes to subscriber Terabozu, who says, please June, come fasterer. And honestly, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think the most recent trailer turned us all into fans of Zangief, and I don't even like grapplers. Listen up, Beans, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really love if you could leave some feedback in the comments section below, because it is the first time I've done a news roundup before, and depending on how many people enjoy this one, it may well be the beginning of a new series. Then again, if it falls flat on its face, it may never happen again. You get to decide, so let me know. Give the video a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hey, if you did like this video, then you'll surely enjoy this one on screen right now, so go ahead and watch it next if you like. That's all for now. I'll see you next week for another episode of Ctrl-Alt-Fight.